News of the battle spread across the galaxy at the speed of light, carried by automated communication relays and merchant ships. The Korthan Empire, which had ruled through fear for thousands of years, had lost an entire fleet to a single unknown vessel. The story seemed impossible, but the evidence was undeniable. Wreckage floated in Velaran space, survivors told their stories, and Commander Vresk himself confirmed the defeat. In the Grand Council chamber on the Korthan homeworld, the High Council gathered in emergency session. The chamber was ancient, carved from black stone, filled with the weight of centuries of conquest. Supreme Admiral Cashin stood before them, his expression grim. "Tell us how this happened," demanded Council Leader Thresh. His voice echoed in the vast chamber. "How did we lose 12 ships to primitives?" "They are not primitives," Cashin replied. He activated a holographic display showing the battle. "They are humans from a planet called Earth, and they are unlike anything we have encountered before." The Council watched the battle replay in silence. They saw the Horizon's impossible maneuvers, its aggressive tactics, its refusal to retreat even when damaged. They saw their own ships built for crushing, overwhelming victories, struggling against an enemy that would not break. "What do we know about their world?" another council member asked. Cashin pulled up data on Earth. The numbers made even the hardened warriors of the Council shift uncomfortably. Their home world has twice the gravity of most inhabited planets. The atmosphere contains oxygen, which is toxic to many species in high concentrations. The native life is extremely aggressive. The humans evolved as persistence hunters, creatures that chase their prey until it collapses from exhaustion. They heal quickly from injuries. They can go without food longer than most species. They are built for warfare. Council Leader Thresh studied the data, but they are primitives. They have only been in space for a few generations. They have no empire, no conquered systems. They have something more dangerous, Cashin said. They have the will to fight for others. Commander Vresk's final report stated that the humans came to Velaran space in response to a distress call. They had no connection to the Velaran. No trade agreements, no alliances. They came simply because someone asked for help. The Council fell silent. This concept was alien to them. The Korthan conquered. They ruled. They took what they wanted. The idea of fighting for strangers made no sense. "Then we will teach them the cost of interference," Thresh declared. "We will send a war fleet to this Earth and destroy it. We will make an example that the entire galaxy will remember." Cashin nodded. "I have already begun assembling the fleet. 300 warships, enough to crack their planet's crust if necessary. We will broadcast the destruction to every species under our rule. They will see what happens to those who defy the Korthan Empire." The Council approved the plan unanimously. The war fleet began to gather, ships arriving from across the Empire. It was the largest fleet assembled in a generation. The Korthan were not just planning to defeat humanity. They were planning to erase it. Far across the galaxy, the Horizon limped back toward Earth. The ship was damaged, its crew exhausted, but they carried something precious. Proof that the Korthan could be beaten, and refugees who needed protection. Minho stood on the bridge, watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. It was beautiful, that blue and white world. It was home, but it was also about to become a war zone. "Send our report ahead," he ordered. "Everything we learned about Korthan tactics, their weapons, their weaknesses. Command needs to know what's coming." The message was sent, traveling ahead of them at faster than light speed. It reached Earth's Defense Command hours before the Horizon docked. And when it did, every alarm in the system went off. Fleet Admiral Taeyang stood in the command center, reading Minho's report with growing concern. He was an old soldier, scarred from Earth's last major war. He knew what it meant to face overwhelming odds. But he also knew what humans could do when pushed to the wall. "How long until the Korthan fleet arrives?" he asked his intelligence officer. Based on Captain Minho's information, approximately 3 weeks. Taeyang pulled up tactical displays of Earth's defenses. They had 70 warships built over the past generation as humanity expanded into space. They were good ships, but they were designed for exploration and defense against pirates, not for fighting an empire. Strategic Commander Nari entered the command center. She was younger than Taeyang, brilliant and ruthless in equal measure. "I've read the report. We're outnumbered more than 4 to 1. "Yes," Taeyang agreed, "but Captain Minho proved they can be beaten. He destroyed or damaged half their fleet with one ship. Imagine what we can do with 70. Nari smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. I'm already imagining it. We need to prepare. The Korthan will expect us to defend Earth directly. We need to surprise them. Over the next 3 weeks, Earth transformed. Shipyards worked around the clock, making repairs and improvements to existing ships. New weapons were designed and tested. Orbital defense platforms were upgraded. But more importantly, a call went out to every human colony, every human station, every human ship in space. The message was simple. Earth was under threat. Come home, and they came. Colony ships, merchant vessels, mining ships, even luxury liners. Thousands of civilian ships formed a makeshift fleet around Earth. They couldn't fight warships, but they could serve other purposes. They could carry supplies, provide medical support, evacuate civilians if necessary. Lieutenant Hyun was among those who answered the call. He was young, barely 25, but he had trained for this his entire adult life. He led a special operations unit. Soldiers trained for boarding actions and ground combat. When he heard about the Korthan threat, he immediately volunteered. We should board their ships during the battle, he proposed to his commander. Like Captain Minho did, hit them from inside while our fleet hits them from outside. His commander, a grizzled veteran named Colonel Park, considered the idea. It's risky. Suicidal, even. Yes, sir, Hyun agreed. But it works. The Korthan don't expect it. They're not built for close combat. We are. Colonel Park approved the mission. Hyun began training his teams, preparing them for the fight of their lives. Combat medic Jiwoo was preparing too. She set up field hospitals in hardened bunkers, stockpiling supplies and blood. She knew casualties would be heavy. The Korthan had weapons that could level cities. But she also knew humans were tough. They could survive injuries that would kill most species. Her job was to make sure they got the chance to heal. When the Horizon finally docked at Earth Station 1, Minho and his crew were greeted as heroes. But they had no time to celebrate. Minho was immediately summoned to Defense Command. He stood before Fleet Admiral Taeyang and Strategic Commander Nari, showing them everything he had learned. He described Korthan tactics in detail, their weapons, their weaknesses. He told them about Commander Vresk, now held prisoner on the Horizon. They're arrogant, Minho explained. They've won for so long that they can't imagine losing. They expect their enemies to panic and surrender. When we didn't, it confused them. That confusion was our advantage. Taeyang studied the tactical data. 300 ships. That's a lot of confusion we need to create. We don't need to destroy all of them, Nari said. We just need to break their will to fight. The Korthan rule through fear. If we make them afraid, they'll break. Minho nodded. They've never fought anyone from a death world before. They don't understand what that means. They think being from a harsh world just makes us physically tougher. But it's more than that. It shapes how we think, how we fight, how we refuse to give up. Then we'll teach them, Taeyang said. We'll show them what it means to threaten Earth. The final preparations were made. Ships were positioned not just around Earth, but throughout the solar system. Weapons platforms were hidden in asteroid fields. Mines were deployed along predicted approach routes, and every human in the system, civilian and military alike, prepared for the fight. Elder Talrus and the Valeran refugees watched from Earth Station 1, safe but worried. Talrus spoke with Minho the night before the expected battle. You should evacuate Earth, Talrus said. Save your people. The Korthan fleet will destroy everything. Minho looked out at his planet through the station's observation window. We could evacuate. We could run. But then what? The Korthan would chase us. They'd hunt us like they hunted you. No, we make our stand here. This is our home. We defend it, even if it means you all die. Minho turned to face the Valeran elder. We're not going to die. We're going to win. Because the Korthan made one critical mistake. They think this is a war of conquest. But for us, this is a war of survival, and humans are very, very good at surviving. 3 weeks after the Horizon's return, long-range sensors detected the Korthan war fleet entering the solar system. 300 ships arranged in perfect formation, advancing like a wave of death. In Defense Command, alarms sounded. Officers took their positions. Fleet Admiral Taeyang stood at the center of it all, calm and ready. All ships, this is Fleet Admiral Taeyang. The enemy is here. Remember your training. Remember why we fight. Today, we show the galaxy what humans can do. Today, we defend our home. Across the fleet, from the largest battleship to the smallest fighter, the response was the same. The horizon spun through space like a dancer in a deadly ballet. Another volley of Korthan missiles streaked past, missing by meters. Yuna's fingers moved across her console with practice speed, firing back at every opportunity. The crew worked together like parts of a single machine, each person knowing exactly what to do. Shields at 40%, Yuna reported. We can't take much more direct fire. Minho watched the tactical display. The Korthan ships were regrouping, changing their formation. They had lost 2 destroyers and damaged 3 others, but they still had numbers on their side. Commander Vresk was getting smarter, more cautious. They're adapting to our tactics, Minho said. Yuna, we need something they won't expect. Yuna thought for a moment, then her eyes widened. Captain, that asteroid cluster at bearing 185. We could use it. Minho looked at the navigation display. There was indeed a small field of asteroids nearby, remnants of a broken planet. You want to lead them into it? More than that, Yuna said. I want to use the asteroids as weapons. Minho grinned. Do it. The horizon turned hard and accelerated toward the asteroid field. The Korthan ships followed, sensing what they thought was desperation. Vresk ordered his fleet to close in for the kill. They're taking the bait, Yuna said, entering the field in 3, 2, 1. The horizon dove into the asteroids, weaving between the massive rocks with dangerous precision. The Korthan ships followed, confident in their superior numbers. That was their mistake. Yuna had been calculating trajectories while they flew. Now she fired missiles not at the Korthan ships but at specific asteroids. The explosion sent the space rocks tumbling into new paths, directly into the path of the pursuing fleet. The Korthan ships scattered, trying to avoid the suddenly mobile asteroids. Their tight formation broke apart. Some ships collided with rocks. Others collided with each other. Shields flared and died. Hulls cracked open. Now, Minho ordered. The horizon emerged from the far side of the asteroid field and immediately reversed course. They came back at full speed, catching the Korthan fleet while it was in disarray. Yuna launched every missile they had left. The damaged Korthan ships, their shields already weakened, took the full force of the attack. 3 more destroyers went dark. A heavy cruiser lost its main engines and began to tumble. The remaining Korthan ships pulled back, regrouping at a safer distance. In the chaos, Minho saw an opportunity. The Korthan flagship was isolated, separated from its escorts by the asteroid field. Yuna, target that flagship. We're going in. Captain, that's suicide, Jiho called from engineering. That ship is 10 times our size. Then we'll have to be 10 times smarter, Minho replied. Prepare for boarding action. The crew stared at him for a moment, then understanding dawned. They weren't going to destroy the flagship. They were going to take it. The horizon accelerated toward the massive Korthan vessel. The flagship fired its weapons, but Yuna piloted with skill born from living in Earth's heavy gravity. Her reflexes were faster than the Korthan could anticipate. The ship dodged and weaved, taking glancing hits but nothing critical. Brace for impact, Minho called. The horizon slammed into the flagship's side, specifically targeting a weapons port that Yuna had damaged earlier. The reinforced human ship punched through the weakened Korthan armor like a fist through paper. The impact threw everyone forward against their restraints, but the human crew recovered quickly. Boarding teams, move! Minho ordered. 20 crew members, including Minho himself, grabbed weapons and headed for the breach point. They wore armored suits designed for combat in space. The Velarin watched in amazement as these humans prepared to board an enemy warship in the middle of a battle. Elder Talrus approached Minho. This is madness. You'll all be killed. Minho checked his rifle. Maybe. But if we take their commander, this battle ends. Besides, humans are good at close combat. It's what we evolved for. The boarding team entered the Korthan flagship through the breach. Emergency fields had sealed the hull, but the corridor was still damaged and dark. They moved forward in pairs, covering each other, weapons ready. The first Korthan soldiers they encountered were not prepared for humans. The Korthan were tall and thin, evolved on a low-gravity world. They were used to fighting at range with energy weapons. They had never fought an enemy that charged directly at them. Minho's team moved fast and hit hard. The Korthan soldiers fired their weapons, but the human armor was tough, and the humans themselves were tougher. What would kill a Korthan soldier? A human could survive long enough to keep fighting. One Korthan fired an energy beam that hit Minho in the shoulder. He felt the burn through his armor. felt the pain, but he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. Stopping meant death, so he charged forward and struck the soldier with the butt of his rifle. The Korthan went down hard, not built to take impacts from someone who grew up in Earth's crushing gravity. The team fought their way through corridor after corridor. Alarms blared. Korthan soldiers rushed to stop them. But the humans were relentless. They used tactics the Korthan had never seen: cover and movement, suppressing fire, grenades in enclosed spaces. They fought dirty and they fought smart. Hana was with the boarding team, serving as combat medic. She treated wounded team members even while under fire, working with steady hands despite the danger. When a crew member took a hit that would have killed a Korthan, she stabilized him and got him back in the fight. "The bridge is ahead," Yuna said through the communication system. "I'm tracking Commander Vresk's command codes. He's still there." "Then that's where we're going," Minho said. They reached the bridge doors. They were sealed and heavily armored. Jiho, who had insisted on coming along, placed explosive charges at the weak points he identified in the door's structure. "Clear," he shouted. The explosion tore the doors open. The boarding team rushed in, weapons raised. The Korthan bridge crew froze in shock. They had been watching the battle, confident in their superiority. They had never imagined the enemy would be standing on their bridge. Commander Vresk stood at the center of the bridge, his black eyes wide with disbelief. How did you get here?" Minho pointed his rifle at the commander. "We walked. Now order your fleet to stand down." Vresk's hand moved toward a weapon at his side. Minho fired, and the weapon clattered across the floor. Vresk clutched his hand, staring at Minho with something between rage and fear. "Order your fleet to stand down," Minho repeated, "or I'll blow this bridge and everyone in it into space. Your choice." Vresk looked around at his bridge crew. They were all watching him, waiting for orders. He looked at the humans, these strange, dense creatures who had done the impossible. He looked at Minho and he saw no mercy in those eyes. "Stand down," Vresk said quietly. Then louder, into his communication system. "All ships, cease fire. Stand down. The battle is over." On the Horizon's bridge, the remaining crew watched in amazement as the Korthan fleet powered down its weapons. The battle that should have ended in their destruction had ended in victory. Elder Talris stood at the railing, tears streaming down his face. "You did it. You actually did it. You defeated a Korthan fleet." Yuna smiled tiredly. "We're humans. Losing isn't really our thing." In the captured flagship's bridge, Minho kept his weapon trained on Vresk. "Now you're going to answer some questions, starting with how many more fleets the Korthan Empire has and where they are." Vresk laughed bitterly. "You think this changes anything? The Empire has hundreds of ships, thousands of soldiers. You won one battle. You cannot win the war." Minho stepped closer, looking down at the defeated commander. "You're wrong. We can win, because you don't understand what you're fighting. You think we're just another species you can conquer. But we're from Earth. Do you know what that means?" Vresk said nothing. "It means we come from a world that tried to kill us every single day. A world with crushing gravity, deadly weather, and predators that hunted us. We survived by being tougher, smarter, and more stubborn than anything that wanted us dead. We learned to work together. We learned to protect each other. And we learned that we never, ever give up." Minho looked around at his crew, at the humans who had fought so hard. "You declared war on the wrong species. And now you're going to learn what that means." Vresk knelt on his own bridge, defeated and captured. For the first time in his life, he felt true fear, because he realized the human was right. The Korthan Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked people under the protection of Deathworlders, and Deathworlders did not forgive. Hana moved through the medical bay with quick, efficient steps. Injured Valoran filled every bed, and some lay on temporary cots on the floor. She had never seen aliens like them before. They were fragile, their bones thin and light. What would be a minor cut for a human was a serious injury for them. Their blood pressure was low, their metabolism slow. They had evolved on a gentle world. "How are they doing?" Minho asked, entering the medical bay. Hana wiped sweat from her forehead. "I'm keeping them alive, but it's not easy. Their physiology is completely different from ours. What we consider normal atmospheric pressure is too much for them. Our standard lighting is too bright. Even our normal walking speed makes them nervous because we move so fast." Minho looked around at the frightened faces. Some of the Valoran watched him with wide, uncertain eyes. "Do what you can for them. They've been through hell. In the engineering section, Jiho was working on one of the Velarin escape pods. He had it opened up, studying the technology inside. A young Velarin engineer named Soren stood nearby, watching nervously. "Your life support systems are beautifully designed," Jiho said, connecting his diagnostic tool to the pod's computer. "Very efficient, very elegant, but they're not robust. One hit and they fail completely." Soren nodded sadly. "We built them for peace, not for war. We never imagined we would need battle-ready systems." Jiho showed him the modifications he was making. "See here? I'm adding redundant power supplies and reinforcing the critical systems. If one fails, another takes over automatically. It's not pretty, but it works." "How do you know how to do this so quickly?" Soren asked. Jiho laughed. "On Earth, everything tries to kill you. Our equipment has to work in extreme heat, extreme cold, high pressure, low pressure, you name it. We learned to build things tough and to fix them fast. You adapt or you die." On the bridge, Yuna was teaching Elder Talrus and several other Velarin about Korthan tactics. They crowded around her console, listening intently. "The Korthan fight like predators hunting prey," Yuna explained. "They rely on overwhelming force and intimidation. They expect their enemies to panic and scatter. That's when they strike hardest. How do we fight against that?" Talrus asked. "We have no warships. Our people are not warriors," Yuna smiled. "You don't need to be warriors. You need to be survivors. And I can teach you that. The first rule is simple. Don't run in a straight line. Korthan weapons are powerful but slow to track. If you move unpredictably, you're harder to hit." She pulled up simulations on her screen. "Second rule, they expect you to surrender when damaged. Don't keep fighting even when hurt. They won't expect it and it will confuse them." One of the Velarin, a female named Denna, raised her hand hesitantly. "But we're not strong like you. We can't fight hand to hand. We can't endure like humans can." Yuna's expression softened. "You don't need to be strong like us. You need to be smart like you. Use your knowledge of systems and technology. Set traps, create diversions. Make them fight on your terms, not theirs." The ship's alarm suddenly blared to life. Yuna spun to her console. "Contact!" Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. "It's them. The Korthan are here." Minho was on the bridge in seconds. "Battle stations." "How many ships?" 12 warships, Yuna reported. "Destroyer class and 3 heavy cruisers. We're severely outnumbered." Minho sat in his command chair and activated the ship-wide communication. "All hands, this is the captain. The Korthan fleet has arrived. We knew this would happen. Remember your training. Remember why we're here. We're going to show them what humans can do." On the main screen, the Korthan ships appeared. They were dark and angular, bristling with weapons. They moved into a standard attack formation, surrounding the horizon and the Velarin refugee ships. A transmission came through. The face that appeared was alien, but the contempt was universal. This was Commander Vresk of the Korthan fleet. His skin was pale gray, his eyes were black, and his expression was one of absolute arrogance. "Unknown vessel," Vresk said, his voice cold. "You are interfering with Korthan imperial business. Surrender immediately, and you will be granted the mercy of slavery. Resist, and you will be destroyed. You have 1 minute to comply." Minho stood and faced the screen. "This is Captain Minho of the United Earthship Horizon. These people are under our protection. Leave now and you live. Stay and face the consequences." Vresk laughed. It was a cruel sound. "Your protection? You have 1 ship. 1 small ship. I have 12 warships. You cannot win. You cannot even survive. What foolish species are you?" "We're humans," Minho said calmly. "And you just made a big mistake." Vresk's laughter stopped. "I give you this 1 chance because I am curious about your stupidity. Surrender now." "No," Minho said simply, and cut the transmission. The Korthan fleet opened fire immediately. Energy beams and missiles streaked toward the horizon. But Yuna had been ready. She fired the maneuvering thrusters at full power. The ship twisted and dove, moving with an agility that made the Velarin on board cry out in alarm. "Hold on to something," Minho called out. The ship spun through space, dodging the incoming fire. Some shots hit, but the horizon shields held. Jiho had reinforced them beyond normal specifications. The ship shuddered but kept moving. "Return fire," Minho ordered. Yuna launched missiles, but not at the enemy ships. She fired them at the debris field around them. The missiles detonated, sending shrapnel flying in all directions. The Korthan ships, not expecting this tactic, took dozens of small impacts. Their shields flickered as they absorbed the unexpected attack. "Clever," Fresk transmitted. "But tricks will not save you." The Korthan ships pressed their attack. They were faster than the Horizon, more powerful, better armed. But Minho had something they didn't, a crew that refused to give up. "Jiho, how are the engines?" Minho asked. "Running at 130%, Jiho called back. "I can give you more if you need it. Do it." The Horizon accelerated suddenly, charging directly at the Korthan flagship. The enemy ships scattered, not expecting such an aggressive move. As the Horizon passed through their formation, Yuna launched a full spread of missiles at point-blank range. 2 Korthan destroyers took direct hits. Their shields overloaded and their hulls breached. They began to drift, badly damaged. "Impossible," Fresk shouted. "You cannot be doing this." Minho smiled grimly. "We're humans from Earth. Our planet tried to kill us every day." "You think we're afraid of you?" The battle continued. The Horizon wove through space, taking hits but dealing them back. Yuna used every trick she knew. Jiho pushed the ship beyond its limits. Hana worked in the medical bay, treating crew members injured by the violent maneuvers. The Velaran watched in amazement. They had never seen anyone fight the Korthan like this. They had never seen anyone fight the Korthan at all. Most species just surrendered, but humans were different. Humans came from a world that forged them in fire and gravity and danger. They were dense and strong and stubborn. They didn't know how to quit. Minho stood on his bridge watching the battle unfold, and he thought about that distress signal. Someone had asked for help, not expecting an answer, but the answer had come. And now the galaxy was about to learn something new. It was about to learn that when you hurt the innocent, when you prey on the weak, you might just call down the attention of Deathworlders, and Deathworlders protect their own. The bridge of the UES Horizon was quiet except for the soft beeping of navigation systems. Captain Minho sat in his command chair, watching the stars drift past on the main screen. His crew had been mapping this sector of space for 3 months now. It was routine work, but someone had to do it. Yuna stood at her tactical station, monitoring the sensors. She was good at her job, always alert, always watching. Beside her, Jiho was reading through engineering reports on his tablet. The ship's systems were running smoothly. Everything was normal. Then the speakers crackled with static. Minho sat up straight. "What was that?" Yuna's fingers flew across her console. "I'm picking up something on the emergency frequency. It's weak, but it's there. Put it through," Minho ordered. More static filled the bridge, then a voice broke through. It sounded desperate, afraid. The words were translated by the ship's computer, but the emotion needed no translation. "This is Elder Talrus of the Velaran people. We are dying. Our worlds burn. Our ships are hunted. The Korthan Empire shows no mercy. We send this message to anyone who can hear. Please, if there is kindness left in this galaxy, help us. We have children. We have families. We want only to live in peace. The Korthan give us no chance. They destroy everything. This may be our last transmission. If anyone hears this, please remember that we existed. Please remember that we tried." The message ended. The bridge fell silent. Hana, the medical officer, had come up from the medical bay when she heard the commotion. "Did I just hear what I think I heard?" Minho stood from his chair and walked to the navigation console. "Where did that signal come from?" The navigation officer checked his systems. "Bearing 273 Mark V distance, approximately 40 light-years from our current position." Jiho looked up from his tablet. "Captain, we should probably report this to command. This sounds like a war zone." Minho nodded slowly. "What do we know about the Korthan Empire?" Yuna pulled up information on her screen. "They're old, very old. They've been conquering systems for thousands of years. They have hundreds of warships. No one stands against them because no one can win." "And the Velaran?" Minho asked. "Peaceful traders," Yuna replied. "They have no military to speak of. They rely on diplomacy and commerce. If the Korthan decided to attack them, it would be a massacre." Minho walked back to his chair. He thought about the message, about the fear in that voice. He thought about children and families who just wanted to live. He thought about what it meant to be human. On Earth, humanity had grown up fighting. Not just fighting each other, but fighting their own planet. Earth was not a gentle world. Its gravity was heavy. Its weather was violent. Its predators were deadly. Humans learned early that if you didn't fight, you died. But they also learned something else. They learned to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. "How long to reach those coordinates?" Minho asked. The navigation officer looked surprised. At maximum speed about 6 days. Captain, Jiho said carefully. The Korthan Empire doesn't take kindly to interference. If we go there, we might not come back. Minho looked at his crew. These were good people. They deserved to know what they were getting into. You're right. This is dangerous. The Korthan could destroy us easily. Command would probably tell us to stay away. But I keep thinking about that message. Someone asked for help. They didn't think anyone would answer, but they asked anyway. Hana stepped forward. I didn't join the space fleet to ignore people in danger. Yuna checked her weapon systems. The Horizon isn't a warship, but we're not defenseless. We have shields, missiles, and point defense guns. We might surprise them. Jiho closed his tablet and smiled. I can make the engines run faster than they're supposed to. I can make our weapons hit harder. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. Minho looked at each of them, feeling pride in his chest. This was why he loved his crew. They understood. Then we're agreed. Set course for Velarin space. Maximum speed. Battle stations. The ship turned, its engines burning bright as it accelerated. Behind them, the safe, charted space of human territory fell away. Ahead was the unknown, danger, and people who needed help. As they traveled, Minho had his crew prepare. Yuna studied everything she could find about Korthan tactics. Jiho worked on the ship's weapons and shields, making adjustments and improvements. Hana stocked the medical bay with supplies. Everyone knew their job. On the third day, they picked up more transmissions. These were fragmentary, broken pieces of messages. Velarin ships calling for help. Velarin colonies reporting attacks. Each message was a countdown to extinction. They're being hunted, Yuna said, her voice tight with anger. The Korthan aren't just conquering them. They're erasing them. Minho's jaw tightened. Faster, Jiho. Push the engines harder. Already on it, Captain, Jiho replied from engineering. We'll be there in 3 days instead of 6. The engines might complain, but they'll hold. Hana came to the bridge with food and coffee for everyone. You all need to eat. We need to be strong when we arrive. They ate together on the bridge, not wanting to leave their stations. They talked about what they might find, about what they would do. They made plans and backup plans. They checked their weapons and their courage. On the 6th day, now arrived in only 4 thanks to Jiho's work, they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The sight that greeted them made them all go silent. Space debris floated everywhere. Pieces of ships, large and small. Life pods drifted with their emergency beacons blinking. Some still had life signs. Many didn't. My God, Hana whispered. Minho stood from his chair. Begin rescue operations immediately. Bring in every life pod that has survivors. Yuna, scan for threats. I want to know if any Korthan ships are nearby. Scanning now, Yuna reported. I'm not detecting any active warships in the immediate area. They might have moved on to their next target. Then we have time, Minho said. Let's save who we can. The Horizon moved through the debris field, its tractor beams pulling in life pods one by one. Hana and her medical team worked frantically. The Velarin they brought aboard were in bad shape. They were small creatures, delicate, with large eyes and smooth skin. Many were injured. All were terrified. Elder Talrus was among the survivors. When he was well enough to speak, he was brought to meet Minho. You came, Talrus said, his voice filled with wonder. Someone actually came. I thought the message would drift forever, unheard. Minho looked at the small alien. We heard, and we're here to help. Talrus's eyes filled with tears. You don't understand. The Korthan will return. They always return to finish what they started. You should leave while you can. Save yourselves. Minho shook his head. We're not leaving. When the Korthan come back, they're going to learn something new. They're going to learn what happens when you threaten people under human protection. Talrus stared at him. You would fight the Korthan Empire for us? You don't even know us. We know enough, Minho said simply. You needed help. We're here. That's all that matters. And in the darkness of space, the Horizon waited, its crew ready, its weapons armed, for the moment when the hunters would return and find that their prey had found guardians. Yes, sir. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The Korthan war fleet moved through the solar system like a dark tide. 300 warships in perfect formation, their weapons charged, their crews confident. Supreme Admiral Kashin stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the displays. The small blue planet looked peaceful, fragile. Soon it would burn. Open communication channels, Kashin ordered. Let them hear their doom. His face appeared on every screen throughout Earth's defense fleet. His voice broadcast across all frequencies. Humans of Earth, you have interfered in Korthan Imperial affairs. You have destroyed our ships and captured our commanders. For these crimes, your world will be destroyed. We offer you one chance for mercy. Surrender now. Become slaves of the Empire. You will live, though you will never be free. Refuse, and we will crack your planet's crust and boil your oceans. You have 1 hour to decide. The transmission ended. For a moment, there was silence across the human fleet. Then Fleet Admiral Taeyang opened his own channel, broadcasting to every Korthan ship. This is Fleet Admiral Taeyang of the United Earth Defense Force. You came to our home. You threatened our families. You think we will surrender? You think we will kneel? He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was hard as iron. Come and try to make us. Come and learn what happens when you threaten a death world. Come and learn why humans don't have a word for surrender in battle. Kashin's expression darkened. Destroy them all. Leave nothing alive. The Korthan fleet opened fire. Hundreds of energy beams and thousands of missiles streaked toward Earth's defense fleet. It was a display of overwhelming firepower designed to break enemy morale instantly. But the human fleet didn't break. It scattered like seeds in the wind, every ship moving on pre-planned vectors. The Korthan weapons struck empty space where the human ships had been moments before. Strategic Commander Nari had studied the Korthan tactics from Minho's reports. She knew they preferred massed fire on fixed positions, so she made sure there were no fixed positions. All ships execute pattern Delta, Nari ordered from her command ship. Make them chase us. The human fleet dove toward the inner planets using gravity wells to accelerate. The Korthan fleet followed, still confident. They had numbers. They had power. They would run down these humans like prey. But as the Korthan fleet entered the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, they discovered the first surprise. Hidden weapons platforms activated, emerging from asteroids that looked natural. Railguns fired solid projectiles at relativistic speeds. The Korthan sensors had been calibrated to detect energy weapons and missiles. They didn't see the inert metal rods until they struck. 20 Korthan ships were hit in the first volley. Shields that could stop energy beams shattered under kinetic impacts. Hulls designed to withstand missiles crumpled like paper. The Korthan formation broke as ships maneuvered to avoid more attacks. What are these weapons? Kashin demanded. Why didn't our sensors detect them? His tactical officer scrambled to answer. They're primitive kinetic weapons, sir. Just metal rods accelerated to high speed. No energy signature to detect. Kashin realized with growing alarm that the humans were using simple physics as a weapon. Destroy those platforms. But by the time the Korthan fleet targeted the weapons platforms, the human fleet had circled back. They came from behind, from above, from the sides. Not as a unified force, but as dozens of small groups, each attacking different targets. The Korthan couldn't mass their fire effectively because the targets were everywhere. Lieutenant Hyun's boarding teams launched from fast attack ships. They were in small, heavily armored pods that were hard to target. As Korthan ships focused on the main fleet, the boarding pods slammed into their hulls and cut through. Hyun led his team into a Korthan cruiser, moving fast through the corridors. The Korthan crew was not prepared for humans in close combat. Hyun and his soldiers were stronger, faster, and far more aggressive. They had trained in Earth's gravity their entire lives. The Korthan, evolved on lighter worlds, couldn't match their strength or speed. The boarding teams captured the cruiser's engineering section and set the reactors to overload. Time to go, Hyun called to his team. They fought their way back to their pods and launched just as the cruiser exploded. Combat medic Jiwoo worked in a field hospital on one of the orbital stations. Wounded crew members from damaged ships were brought in constantly. She moved between beds with practiced efficiency, treating burns, broken bones, and decompression injuries. Many of the injuries would have been fatal to most species, but humans were resilient. She saved lives that shouldn't have been savable. How are they still fighting? A wounded pilot asked her as she treated his burns. I saw my ship take 3 direct hits. By all rights, I should be dead. Jiwoo smiled as she applied medical foam to his injuries. You're human. We're hard to kill. Now rest. You'll be back in a fighter by tomorrow. The battle raged for hours. The Korthan fleet slowly pushed toward Earth, but they were paying a terrible price. For every human ship destroyed, they lost 2 of their own. Their formation was broken. Their tactics were failing. And for the first time in their long history, they were afraid. Kashin watched his fleet being torn apart by an enemy that should have been crushed hours ago. How are they doing this?
They're outnumbered.
They should be dead. His tactical officer had the answer, but it was not one Cashin wanted to hear. Admiral, they're not fighting like any species we've encountered. They don't retreat when damaged. They don't surrender when outnumbered. They use tactics that sacrifice their own ships to destroy ours. They're not trying to survive. They're trying to win at any cost. Cashin realized the truth. He was fighting an enemy that didn't fear death. An enemy that would rather die fighting than live in defeat. The Korthan Empire had ruled through fear, but you couldn't frighten someone who had already accepted death as a possibility. Pull back, Cashin ordered. Reform the fleet. We need a new strategy. But Strategic Commander Nari had been waiting for this moment. As the Korthan fleet tried to regroup, she sprung her final trap. The civilian ships that had been hiding behind Earth's moon suddenly appeared. They weren't warships, but they didn't need to be. They were loaded with explosives controlled by remote pilots. Hundreds of civilian ships converted into massive bombs, accelerated toward the Korthan fleet. The Korthan fired desperately, destroying many of them. But they couldn't stop them all. The civilian ships crashed into Korthan vessels and detonated. The explosions tore through the enemy formation. At the same time, the entire human military fleet charged forward. Captain Minho, back in command of a repaired Horizon, led the assault. Every ship fired every weapon. They didn't hold back. They didn't save anything for retreat. They threw everything into one final devastating attack. The Korthan fleet broke. Ships began to flee, their crews panicking. Cashin tried to restore order, but it was too late. His fleet had been beaten not by superior technology or numbers, but by an enemy with an unbreakable will. All ships, retreat, Cashin finally ordered. Get us out of this system. But Fleet Admiral Taeyang wasn't done. Pursue them. Let them tell their empire what happened here. Let them spread the word about what happens when you threaten humanity. The human fleet chased the Korthan ships to the edge of the solar system, destroying any that were too slow or too damaged to escape. Of the 300 ships that had come to destroy Earth, fewer than 100 limped away. On Earth and its orbital stations, humans watched the retreating Korthan fleet and cheered. They had defended their home. They had won. Elder Talris stood with Minho on the Horizon's bridge watching the victory. Tears streamed down his face. You did it. You actually defeated them. Minho looked tired but satisfied. We defended our home. But this isn't over. The Korthan Empire is still out there, still enslaving other species. We need to end them. How? Talris asked. You won here, but they have hundreds of worlds, thousands of ships. Minho smiled. Then we'll free those worlds. We'll destroy those ships. And we'll teach the galaxy that there's a new rule. Prey on the weak and the Deathworlders will come for you. Across the galaxy, the news spread. The Korthan Empire, invincible for thousands of years, had been defeated. Not once but twice by humans, by Deathworlders. And in the slave pens and conquered worlds of the Empire, hope began to grow. Because if humans could win, maybe others could too. Maybe the age of Korthan rule was ending. Maybe freedom was possible after all.